Okay, welcome. Today I'm going to be offering a reflection about the coronavirus and just the feeling about feeling isolated that I'm hearing that many people with this lockdown, with not being able to go out, being on your own a lot, how this is bringing up the feeling of isolation and what you can do about it. Okay, take care. So, I am currently hiding under the wood store a little bit as it is raining out here. So, I obviously, since I recorded last week's video, as certainly in the UK, everything's seeming to be shutting down because of this coronavirus. And looking around the world, it seems to be we're in quite a bit of chaos, and there seems to be a lot of fear going on around the world, and this seems to be quite upsetting for a lot of people. I see that there's quite a few teachers out there, the Bruce Liptons, the Greg Bradens, who are seeing this as quite a positive thing, and they're seeing the positives of it. And I feel that I have been aware of the fear, and I feel very similar to that I think the coronavirus has a positive side to it as well, and yet we have to also face what we're feeling. So this feeling of fear or this feeling of isolation, and my own way of dealing with things like this is to have a set of practices, have a set of ways of dealing with these things as they come up, so I can keep moving through them and moving back more into joy and happiness. So that's what I'll be talking about today is, what can we do when we're starting to feel this isolation, we're feeling disconnected from others. So yeah, I received a post from a friend, and she just mentioned to me that, she was talking to people and they're feeling isolated, and that, being on their own, at home, on their own, it's kind of a bit too much for them, and they're really struggling with that. In my own life, I spent 3 years in a Buddhist community, and I spent a lot of time in silence, a lot of time on my own. And although I didn't find it very easy, over the years I've kind of learned how to be okay with that, and found ways of being isolated and actually it being quite a joyful and uplifting experience. So one of the first things I would say is to do with nature, really. That this time of isolation, we're having to distance ourselves from other people. It's, for me, a good time for us to get into nature. I was working my last day at forest school yesterday with a group of children, and I saw quite a lot of people just outside walking, certainly the older generations. And I think that this is really, really important for you if you're feeling isolated, is to turn your phones off, turn your computers off, and come outside. And this is the second point. The second point is having a daily practice. So, here in the garden, you can see I have up there in the trees, you probably can just see him. You see up here, where is he there? The robin. He's watching me and he's singing his song. And then behind me we've got the curlews, and it's kind of springtime. They've just arrived from the coast, and for me that's partly what we do when we feel isolated, is getting into a really positive practice. So I was talking to a client yesterday about this thing that happiness is a skill. We've learnt to be unhappy. We've learnt skills and techniques which make us unhappy. But on the same flip side of that is that if you want to be happy, there's a set of skills you can learn. And for me, one of them is getting outside in nature. And on a regular basis, and this comes from the 8 Shields model, the teachings of John Young and the Coyote's Guide. And it's a sit spot. So you come out every day and you sit for 10 minutes, same spot, and you just look around. Don't have your phone on you, you just 10 minutes and you just listen. Listen to the birds. It's like, notice what changing. And in these sit spots, it can be very magical what you see. You might see deer come along, say if you're in a woodland. You might see the birds come up really close to you. You see them becoming much more relaxed. And by listening, you'll find that the mind starts to still. So I think that's, for me, one of the things for feeling isolated is just that regular practice. What's another thing I've got written down is study something. It's like, this is an opportunity. You know, you've got this time and you could watch TV, you could be on your phone, or you could actually go, right, yeah, I'd really love to study something. Maybe I want to learn a language, or I want to learn about metaphysics or quantum physics. I want to really learn about happiness. I want to develop myself, and I want to learn to communicate better. Whatever that is, see this as a time that you set aside every day, half an hour, to studying something. And I think it was Earl Nightingale who said that, you know, if you study a subject an hour a day for, I think it's 5 years or something like that, he says you'll be an expert. It might even be less time than that. And what it is, it's just you begin something you're passionate about. You know, so for me, every day I look to study. I don't always get round to it, but, you know, my work with men, you know, I'm usually studying something that I'm passionate about around men, the archetypes, relationships, you know, tantric teachings, things that's like, really kind of enlightens me. So next thing is, something physical. If you're feeling isolated, whether it's a physical exercise, you know, you've got apps out there like Seven, which is the letters 7, SEVEN, which is high intensity interval training. And you can start to get into a regular routine of exercise. Come out, do some gardening if you've got a garden. Go walking. It's like if you're feeling isolated, once the physical feeling of, you know, exercising, you get those endorphins going around your system, the oxytocin, you start to feel a lot better. The next thing I'd say about if you're feeling isolated is, you know, learn something new, but also go back to some of the things you loved as a child. So maybe you loved to paint, or maybe it's to write stories. Maybe it was to play music. It's like, go back to doing those things and remembering those things and seeing this time of isolation as a time to reconnect with that inner child. What did he love? What did she love? And doing those things. And I think another aspect of that is about coming out and being in light. You know, if you're indoors a lot, then, you know, I personally find I can get a bit down if I'm just inside all the time. Whereas, you know, I've got a practice now every morning. I spend about 3 hours doing my morning routine, get up between 5 and 6. And then at the end of it, after my cold bath, I'll come down here into the garden, just wander around barefoot, do a bit of qigong, do a bit of grounding, eat some wild plants, and just connect. Just be outside. And I do that throughout the day, just practicing being in nature. So, so those are some of the ideas, really. So if you're feeling isolated, and I think the final thing for me is, if you are feeling that, is to give yourself that space to feel it. You know, breathing in, this is what I'm feeling in my body. Breathing out, I'm taking good care of this feeling. Breathing in, I feel isolated. Breathing out, that's okay. Breathing in, this feeling has arisen in me. Breathing out, I'm taking good care of this feeling. Breathing in, this is what I feel. Breathing out, I'm taking good care of this feeling. And just spending 5 minutes. When it bubbles up, you'll find that, like the clouds in the sky, they'll just drift over. It won't get stuck above you if you give that space to feel what you're feeling. Just that space. keep dropping the thoughts, come back to this is what I feel physically in the body, and then it will shift and it will change. So, yeah, that is my reflection for today. So as always, if you've got any questions, if you'd like me to record a video on something, to do with coronavirus or to do with, fear, whatever it is that's bubbling up for you, then please do, leave a comment below or go to my Facebook page, which is Piers Cross Public. So facebook.com/Piers Cross Public, and you can leave a question there or message me. And I wish you well, and just keep coming back to you're an amazing being. You have the ability to heal yourself and to use this time of isolation as a really amazing time to really connect to your spirit, to connect to your soul, and to really awaken to that happiness which is within you. So, wishing you well, many blessings.